The Premier League is really, really boring. One of the same 4 or 5 teams will win every single season, which means there's little to fight for absolutely everyone else. It's just a matter of don't get relegated and maybe one European spot for the rest of them. It's almost as predictable as me asking you to subscribe to this YouTube channel. I had to do it, I'm sorry. So surely that makes the Championship a lot more bearable as a league. Right? Right? 24 teams effectively scrap for three £100 million plus prizes, top two and whoever wins the playoffs. That means that absolutely everyone is willing to invest piles and piles of money into trying to become a success. Now, we all know how the Championship works. If it goes well, then riches await. You get so much more money. Andrea Radrizzani, for example, bought Leeds United before Leeds got promoted, got Leeds promoted, and then sold after getting relegated again, still getting a profit. However, if it doesn't work out, then there's big, big prices to pay. If not, you become a Derby county, getting relegated, getting into financial ruin because you've fallen foul of the rules, and eventually going through an incredibly long rebuild process, even to just get back to where you were in the first place, never mind where you want to be in the Premier League. It's weird that everyone's so invested in getting to the Premier League because I mentioned it was boring earlier, but still, it's good to see like fun football teams against yours. So, what about this season? This season feels a little bit different. I don't know whether it's because Leeds are back in there, so I've got more of a personal investment in it, or it's just generally a little bit weird at the Championship this season. At the moment, there's 4 teams that are all scrapping for promotion. Admittedly, absolutely everyone is trying to get promoted, but realistically, you're looking at the teams Leicester City, Ipswich Town, Leeds United, and Southampton as the ones that could get feasibly promoted during this season automatically. A bunch more could go up through the playoffs, but I'm just targeting automatics for this little bit. Last year, and I checked this, after 21 match days, which is when I'm recording this, every single one of those teams would be top 2 at this stage. And that is very, very flexibly phrased, because Leicester would be first, Ipswich would be first, Leeds would be first, and Southampton would just about be in second place, very narrowly behind first place. It's absolutely bonkers. It's so strong at the top of the Championship at the moment. It's hard to really cope. And failure for any of those 3 relegated sides would be absolutely devastating. I've got to go through like all of the little symptoms in a moment, but just think about it. Players would force moves. After the relegation, you saw players at Leicester City, Southampton, Leeds, all trying to force a move because they want Premier League football. And anyone that's stuck around will still want Premier League football because it's the very top of the game. You get more money if you're in the Premier League, you get a little bit more exposure, you're more likely to get brought up by your national teams. Being in the Premier League is massive for a player because it means career opportunities just spiral and spiral and spiral. In addition to that, it makes it harder to buy talent because that same talent wants to be in the Premier League. If, for example, Leicester City don't go up and Ipswich do, and Ipswich want to buy a player from, say, Serie A, that Serie A player is probably going to go to Ipswich because they see, well, they're in the Premier League, and if I make a good impression, even if it's just 1 year in the Premier League, then I've built up my status. I'm more reputable as a player, and I've got a much better chance of getting into World Cup squads, the international team, anything. And after all of that, it's not just on the pitch and in managerial roles that there's potential issues. There's a potential loss of fan base. Clubs like Leicester is another strong example, picked up a huge fan base as a result of their successes in the Premier League. Leicester won a Premier League title and a hell of a lot more people noticed them and paid attention to them and supported them as a result. Leeds United under Marcelo Bielsa picked up a lot more fans. Leeds United, when going through that weird American phase, getting Tyler Adams, Brendan Aronson, Jesse Marsh, got a lot more American fans. And although the loss of Marsh and Aronson and Adams meant that a lot of those American fans dwindled a little bit, there are still some left. But staying in the Championship, it's going to be a lot harder to watch the Championship, and it's going to be a lot harder to retain those fans. And that means lower revenues going forwards. And although the promotion battle is absolutely bonkers, you'd think the rest of the table was a bit more sane, but it's not in the slightest. It is not sensible beyond that in any way, shape, or form. Quick look at the table just now, just because I know I took these notes earlier, and I think surely they have to be wrong. There's currently 14 points between 5th and 2nd place in the league. Is it 14? I've counted wrong. 15 points between 5th and 22nd place in the league, which means that a really bad run of form, even for the likes of West Brom, Sunderland, Hull, are all in that conversation for the playoffs, you're deep in the shit. You're going to tumble down the table and you've got problems on problems on problems. And a really bad run, as we've seen with Birmingham, who are now down in 16th place. They just about won their most recent match. They would be 18th or 19th if they didn't. A bad run of form is as impactful as a good run of form in this league. And rather than fighting for nothing, no matter where you are in the Championship, there is something going on. It's a desperate scrap to stay in the division for them. There is one spot that isn't hugely contested for relegation. Having a quick look, Sheffield Wednesday and Rotherham are both on only 13 points, with QPR ahead of them on 20. And then you've got a big jump from the 7-point gap between QPR and Sheffield Wednesday would then take QPR up to Middlesbrough in 13th. It's so compact down there that it's basically a dogfight, trying to get away from that relegation zone, maybe drag yourself into the playoffs, but effectively there's 2 slots if you take Ipswich, Leicester, Leeds, Southampton into account. So ultimately what will decide the season, and I think this is really important to pay attention to throughout the rest of December and January and the months going onward from that. First up is Ipswich's current run. Ipswich's next run of games is terrifying for them. In quick succession, Norwich, Leeds, Leicester are all sides that could blow their season apart. Ipswich, Norwich, big derby between the two of them. Leeds have beaten Ipswich already this season, and Leicester are Ipswich's main contenders for the title at the minute. Are they contending for the title? There's a single point between them. That run of fixtures could decide whether they're on good form or bad form coming into January, and from that point onwards, it's a matter of sort of setting the tone and keeping their momentum up. Leeds and Southampton have a completely different issue of they need a strong level of heart and determination. Looking at the table right now, there's a massive gap to Ipswich and Leicester. So many points that need to be clawed back, which means you need a lot of heart and you need to keep your motivation and momentum going. Otherwise, you are not going to catch them. And it's going to be almost impossible. But if you keep that dedication going, they will drop enough points. It's on you to keep that personal drive to not drop the same number of points. And Leicester aren't safe either. Leicester, and I know that this looks like it's sort of a positive for them, but they're continually overperforming their XG, both for and against. They've not conceded as many as they should. They've scored more than they should have. I think going into AFCON, this is a serious risk for them, purely because the moment they lose that overperformance, they start losing games more. They start drawing what they should win, and that's why you start dropping points in the Championship. It is not the losses that will stop Leicester getting promoted. It's the draws. It's not being able to convert matches like that. And at the end of the day, I think it could be a really, really tight run till the end of the season. What happens next, I wish I could tell you. Ideally, I'd say Leeds will go up because one of Leicester and Ipswich will stumble at some point, and it's about keeping that momentum going. But who knows? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. As requested earlier, please subscribe. That would be hugely appreciated. And I will see you later.